Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a book that's going to flip everything you think you know about negotiation completely on its head. I want you to forget all those stuffy business school playbooks because we're learning from a world where the stakes are, and I mean this literally, life and death.
So think about it. Over here, you've got your classic negotiation tactics, right? It's all about finding a logical middle ground, some kind of win-win. But then, you have the world of former FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss. And in his world, you can't exactly split the difference when a human life is on the line.
And Voss himself just puts it perfectly here. When you absolutely, positively cannot afford to lose, those old rules just don't cut it. They completely fall apart. So the real question is, what actually works?
Okay, so the very first idea, and this is a big one, is you have to totally rethink the goal of compromise. I mean, as Voss points out, if a kidnapper has one hostage, you don't offer to split the difference. The idea is insane, right? And it's that high-stakes mindset that we're going to apply everywhere.
So why do all those logical, rational tactics fail so often in the real world? Well, it's because they're built on a totally flawed idea, that we're all rational. But we're not. They completely ignore the messy, emotional, and frankly, kinda irrational human beings sitting right across from you.
And this right here leads us to the biggest mind shift in the whole book. You have to understand that a successful negotiation isn't some battle of facts and figures. No, it's about mastering emotional intelligence.
Let's just be real for a second. This is who we are as people. We're driven by our feelings, our fears, our hidden wants and desires, not by a spreadsheet. And if you ignore that emotional layer, you've pretty much already lost before the conversation even gets started.
So the new goal isn't to beat the other person into submission with your flawless logic. The real goal is to build a genuine human connection. You want to make them feel so deeply understood that they instinctively start working with you to help you solve your problem.
So how in the world do you actually build that trust and connection? Well, Voss gives us this amazing set of tools he calls the Tactical Empathy Toolkit. Let's open it up and see what's inside.
The foundation for this entire approach, the thing that holds it all up, is active listening. And look, this is not just being quiet while the other person talks. It means you have to actively silence that little voice in your own head that's just crafting its next brilliant point, and instead focus 100% on them.
And the difference between these two is massive. Most of us, and I'm totally guilty of this too, are passive listeners. We're just filtering everything they say for what we want to hear. Active listening, on the other hand, has one single goal: to make the other person feel completely and totally heard.
Now for one of the simplest and honestly most powerful techniques in the whole book. It's called mirroring. You literally just repeat the last few important words they just said. It sounds almost too simple to work, right? But it does. Subconsciously, it sends a signal that says, hey, I'm listening, I get you, we're on the same page, and it builds rapport almost instantly.
Okay, let's see this thing in action. Imagine the person you're talking to says something really simple, totally mundane, like this comment about the weather.
You just mirror it back. Unbelievably cold. And that little echo, it works like magic. It's a tiny confirmation that makes them feel heard, and it actually prompts them to keep talking and tell you more.
So once you get good at listening, you can level up to tactical empathy. This is where you don't just understand what they're feeling, you actually say it out loud. And this is so important. This is not about agreeing with them. Not at all. It's about showing them you see where they're coming from, which gives you a subtle power to guide the conversation.
The main technique for this is called labeling. You spot an emotion they're feeling, and you articulate it using these really gentle observational phrases like, it seems like, or it sounds like. And this phrasing is critical, because it's not an accusation like, you're angry. It's just an observation, which makes it safe for them to either agree or correct you, pulling them even deeper into the conversation with you.
So check out this brilliant real-world example from the book. A pharmaceutical rep was just hitting a brick wall with this doctor. But instead of pushing more facts, she just listened. She heard the passion in his voice when he talked about his patients, so she used a label. It seems like you really care about your patients. And just like that, by acknowledging his core drive, his guard just melted away, and the door swung wide open for a real conversation.
So what's the ultimate goal here? What are you trying to achieve with all this mirroring and labeling and listening? Well, it's all about getting the other person to say two very specific game-changing words.
And here they are. The two magic words are, that's right. Now, listen closely. This is not, you're right. You're right is them agreeing with you. That's right is a moment of epiphany. It's the point where the other person feels you have just articulated their position, their feelings so perfectly that they have to acknowledge it. That's the moment the entire dynamic of the negotiation changes.
All right, so you've done the work. You've earned that trust. They feel totally understood. Now what? How do you actually start steering the conversation your way? Well, it's not with statements or demands. It's with a very specific kind of question.
They're called calibrated questions. These are open-ended questions, usually starting with how or what. And they are absolute genius because they make the other person stop and think about your problem. You're not an opponent anymore, you've just made them your collaborator.
This is just a perfect real-life example. Let's say your landlord raises the rent. Instead of a big, confrontational, "No way," you calmly reframe the problem with a calibrated question. How am I supposed to do that? This forces the landlord to see the situation from your shoes and actually start helping you solve the problem.
And here are a few more you can just drop into your back pocket for later. I want you to notice how none of these can be answered with a simple yes or no. They are specifically designed to make the other person think, to explain, to reveal what they really want, and that gives you control of the conversation without ever seeming aggressive.
And really, that's the core idea of this whole thing. This isn't about learning clever tricks or how to manipulate people. It's about finally recognizing that we are all driven by emotion. And by making someone feel truly, deeply heard and understood, you build a powerful connection that lets you turn down the tension and guide almost any situation to a much, much better outcome.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Whether it's a talk you need to have with your boss, your partner, maybe even your landlord. What's one conversation in your life that you could completely transform this week just by making the choice to listen first?